Big thanks to my neighbor for taking out his weed whacker 10 minutes before I wanted to start filming. Today, we're talking about that thing you do with your characters. No, not that thing. Get your mind out of the gutter. You've no doubt come across a scene in a novel where something momentous happens to a character, and rather than being excited or saddened, you're just kind of uninterested. Usually this is because the author hasn't done a good job on character development or characterization. If a character is going to be kicked in the head by a donkey, we need to know if we should be happy or sad about that. We need to know if being kicked in the head by a donkey aligns with this character's goals, their belief system, their worldview. This is done through characterization. You can think of characterization as communicating all the information about your character to your reader. The simplest way to do this is to simply tell your reader that information. This is called direct characterization. While you will likely need to do some direct characterization, you're going to want to leverage indirect characterization as much as. Indirect characterization will help to create a unique character voice. Your reader will be able to more easily recognize your character because they will think, speak, and act in a certain way. When stuff happens to them, your reader is more likely to have a reaction because they know your character inside and out. So how can you create indirect characterization? What are the various ways you can use these methods effectively? How many questions will I ask? Method 1. Physical descriptions. You can imply a lot about a character by their physical appearance. Things like their age, socioeconomic status, what clothing they like to wear. All these things will help to communicate to your reader what kind of person this character is. Has their body been worn down by years of working in the mines? Do they have a magnificent set of deltoids cultivated through years of gym membership? It's best to take this a step further and describe things like how your character walks, what their posture is like, what kind of tics or mannerisms they have. Now, you don't want to go overboard with physical descriptions of your characters. Grey's Anatomy is a good example of this. This book is like entirely character description. It goes into an impressive amount of detail, but it really doesn't leave room for much of a plot. I never realized that show was actually a novel adaptation. Method number 2, actions, or more specifically, your character's actions. This is veering into advanced topic territory, but generally if a character is good, they should do good things. If they're evil, they should do evil things, like claw their owner in the face at 4:30 in the morning. It's important that the actions your character takes be in line with their overall character profile. That's not to say that in the heat of the moment your characters can't act impulsively or out of anger. Not all the actions your character takes need to be perfectly in line with what is expected of the character, but this should always be a consideration. This is a two-way street. The actions a character takes tell us a lot about them, but the things we know about them should also influence their actions as well. Method C. Or wait, was I doing numbers or letters here? Thoughts and reactions. Ever since that lab incident, I've learned you can tell a lot about people through what they're thinking. And you can imply a lot about your characters by what they are thinking. You might think, see what I did there? That this only applies in first-person perspective, or if you're doing excerpts of thoughts in like a third-person limited. And that is true. In both of those situations, you are directly communicating your character's thoughts. But you can also change how you write the descriptions of the environment and the things happening in a scene based on the traits and motivation of your viewpoint character. Let me give you an example. Say you have two different characters walking through a crowded bar on a Friday night. One is a guy meeting with his buddies to get their drink on. The other is a guy meeting with a contact to sell nuclear launch codes to the Soviet Union. Nuclear. These characters, although they're walking through and experiencing the same setting, are likely going to have very different feelings about this setting. They're going to be focusing on different things. Their perception of the scene is going to be different because they have different goals and motivations. Changing how you write your descriptions based on your viewpoint character is a powerful but seldom used form of characterization. It allows you to evoke emotions relevant to your character and their situation, and allows you to describe the scene at the same time. So it's kind of like killing two birds with one stone, which doesn't segue at all into method number 4, speech and dialogue. This one should probably go without saying. Well, there should be some saying because it's dialogue, but one of the surefire ways to write crappy dialogue is to have every character use the same voice. Instead, you should give each character a unique voice that aligns with their character profile. You can use how they speak and what they say to tell your reader a lot about that character. Are they educated or not? Do they tend to withhold information or lie about things? Do they crack jokes or otherwise talk like a smartass? Do they constantly steer the conversation towards asking people to subscribe to their channel? That last one usually means they're a cat. Adding this extra layer to your dialogue will not only make it more interesting and dynamic, but also help you to communicate important information about your characters. So remember, your reader is going to need to know whether to cry or cheer when one of your characters gets kicked in the head. The only way they're going to know this is if you properly communicate everything about your character. Your reader is also only going to be interested in your book if you have a mix of different characters, each with their own voice, traits, backstory, likes, dislikes, all that sort of stuff. The methods that I've outlined in this video are a good way to do that. If you're still watching the video at this point, maybe seek help. Or subscribe. You could do that too.